In the meantime, it is still earnings season. We're two-thirds of the way through this, but we have some biggies still to report this week, not the least of which is Apple after the bell. Apple gets closely scrutinized because it's become more than a stock. If you think about it, it's sort of like a high-tech combination retail mutual fund, if you think about it, that, and the fact that its products are priced accordingly, and they push the pricing point on that by raising some of those prices substantially. If you think about it, Apple has been, raising the prices on the latest iPad and the MacBook Air. Already double digits, and people will absorb that. Their customers will continue to buy that, or so the company hopes. Let's go to tech analyst Eric Schaffer. We also have market watcher Dan Schaffer. I said Eric Schiffer, I should say. Eric, without getting into details of what Apple might or might not report, we know it sells a lot of iPhones, a lot of iPads. I know what the estimates are and all of that, but it can manage to sell them with generous margins. Do you still see that continue to be the case?
I do, Neil, and I think it's largely because they built such an amazing brand. There is such tremendous loyalty with respect to the user base. And the other thing that you have going with tech is it becomes a hassle for people to change what they're accustomed to. So they have that benefit. There's this built-in connection, this emotional connection that people have, as well as the fact that their data is there. So I see it continuing. I think that's validated by the fact that Warren Buffett, being one of its biggest investors, what is Warren Buffett like? He likes companies like Coke that have, again, top brand power. So if Coke wants to increase their earnings, they raise their prices in certain cases by a penny or two, and it makes a major impact. Apple has that power.
All right, it's so it hopes, but I was noticing when you look at the MacBook Air and the iPad Pros that were just introduced, Dan, they're going up by 20 to 25%, and depending on the configuration, maybe up to 35%. That is a big old ticket price to absorb. What do you think?
I think it's going to be a problem for them. In fact, I think they expect maybe they'll sell less units, because who needs a faster computer at this point, and who really wants to make a change at those price points? I think they're kind of testing the water. I think it's dangerous for Apple. I know IBM years ago had the same situation where they raised prices and sales dropped. And that's my big concern. I'm not going to change any of mine. I don't own Apple. My wife does.
Would you
but
buy
she's not
it?
going to
Would
be
you
changing.
buy it now, even with the correction? I think it's down about 12% from its highs.
Oh, the stock? No, I would not buy the stock. It looks like a head and shoulders pattern here. It's below its 50-day moving average. And the earnings coming out tonight, if based on what the analysts are expecting, are going to be lower on the net income. The revenues are going to be the same change. So I'm not seeing the growth. I'm seeing steadiness, but I'm not seeing the growth that could support the stock.
You know,
and by the way, I have no ownership in it.
Understood. Although your wife owns it, but she's obviously been doing sneaky stuff around you there. Eric, let me ask you a little bit about Apple. I noticed last month did better than most of its tech, competitors, down about 3.1%, when many of them were down 4 or 5 times that. Amazon, by comparison, and some of these others. Right. What made it absorb the body blows, by and large, better than a lot of its colleagues?
I think it's the loyalty factor, Neil. I think people understand that they have that capability to price power, where at Amazon, if Amazon starts raising prices, people are going to bail. And I think you would have a similar type of a situation with the Netflix. But with Apple, they're not going to go anywhere. And I expect that the average unit price, the average price of an iPhone, is going to continue to escalate. I think you're going to see really good earnings moving into the next quarter. They're going to be able to do this for some time. The other thing that they have in their favor is they're increasing their investment in R&D quite significantly than at any time in their past. And so that portends good things to investors and certainly users of their products, because they're going to create new things that could be very beneficial to future users and certainly investors.
All right, guys, I want to thank you both very, very much. Just a point of perspective here, Apple will be announcing after the close of trading today some of the estimates out there, but besides getting into revenues and earnings, but these are staggering numbers. The company is expected to have sold about 47.5 million iPhones, more than 10.5 million iPads, and close to 5 million Mac computers. That is the high bar that is out there for Apple. Any company that can sell that number of products, 47.5 million iPhones, just that in one quarter. That's why Apple has such a high bar. You created it.